All right, we've got Senator Blunt with us. Thanks.
Got it.
Are you there?
I'm here.
Senator, all right. Well, thanks for being with us. I know things are busy up there. It's sort of a inversely proportional situation. I think a lot of times when you guys are the busiest, it's the time that people back home think that you're doing nothing, if that makes any sense. Because it seems like nothing gets done. Does it,
Unfortunately, it makes complete sense.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Nick, I think you're exactly right. And, obviously now this moment we hope to be able to get something done about spending. I haven't given up on being able to make some changes in the health care plan, and I'm working hard to see if I can get those things done.
Because there have been so many different things going on, and there's so many questions I'm sure you get to your office, and people, want to know. And one of the things that we get a lot of questions, people, they're confused, and they want to know when it comes to the partial shutdown and some of this stuff being shut down, like the World War II memorial. Who really ultimately makes that decision? Who has the authority when that occurs to pick up the phone and to say, go put up those barricades, arrest people if they try to look at that memorial? Where does that originate from?
The White House will be making those kinds of decisions. Now, in fairness, the White House also has the ability to designate essential employees essential to public health and safety, and that includes things like the food safety inspectors, the border control officers, the FAA, the air traffic controllers. They don't get paid, by the way, necessarily, though they, in all previous cases, have. They don't get paid, but the White House can say these health and safety people, these essential workers have to come to work. Now, it's hard to say that the park rangers are essential, but it's equally foolish to put barricades on an open-air facility where it frankly takes more people to guard the barricades than would just keep an eye on the facility and find out that nothing happened. I normally go down there if I can at all when these World War II veterans come in, the honor flights come in, and I've done that for about 4 different groups since they closed the memorial, frankly, just to be sure that me or somebody else was there to move the gate so that these veterans could go to their memorial. But I think it's clear, whether it's the sequester or this, that the president wants this to be a painful experience.
Yeah.
He wants people to suffer through this so that it would end quicker, and I think that lies behind a lot of these decisions.
Senator McCaskill had said that she found she was offended by the fact that politicians from states without veterans would come to the memorial to politicize things. Did you ever get a sense of what states it is that she's aware of that don't have any veterans in them?
Well, I'm not going to criticize her on this topic or my other colleagues who want to go down there at all. I think making veterans any kind of a political pawn either way is a bad thing to do, and Senator McCaskill's been down there when Missouri groups have come, and both of us have seen people from other states who didn't have any veterans there that day, but that's certainly their decision to go down there and call attention to what is clearly an unfair thing for all veterans. On the other hand, I go down there when there are Missouri veterans there. I don't park myself at never have. And by the way, I didn't just start going when these groups started coming 2 weeks ago. I started going when they first started coming when I was a member of the House, and it's a great honor for me to get to see these World War II, and many of them were also Korean veterans, people who served in World War II, then got called right back up in a couple of years, in a handful of years to serve in Korea. And these are veterans that aren't going to be around, most of them, a whole lot longer, and it's an honor to be able to be there with them. And frankly, it was foolish of the administration to even think that closing their memorial to them during daylight hours was in any way defensible.
We're talking with Senator Blunt. There have been numerous different things that aren't necessarily directly connected, but they roll into each other, and we still get so much feedback about, Obamacare and what it was that Senator Cruz went through, and people, watched as he was, trying to get that threshold needed of 60 votes in order to put funding back in, and there was a lot of maneuvering and the procedural rules that take place, and what a lot of people saw, they felt as if there was Senator Cruz doing what it was that his constituents wanted to do, and the biggest pushback he got was from his own party, from Republicans and the leadership like Mitch McConnell and others that voted in a way that would put the threshold at only 50 votes needed instead of 60. And people are just very, very frustrated by that. What sort of feedback did you get, and why did you stand where you did when it came to Senator Cruz and his position when it came to that 60 vote they were trying to get in order to put the funding back in for Obamacare?
Well, first of all, nobody has been more concerned about the unworkability of Obamacare than I have from day one. And many of the papers in our state over and over again say Roy Blunt seems to be a one-man focus against Obamacare because he thinks it can't work. And I don't think it can work. But my problem with Ted's plan was that it wouldn't work either. And leading people to believe it would work, I thought was the wrong thing to do. And I don't want to say that anybody's badly motivated here. If you can't swim and you see somebody drowning and you jump in to save them, you're trying your best to do the right thing. You just have a plan that fundamentally won't work. And so the day, Obamacare is not funded through the normal discretionary process. It's almost all of it is mandatory funding. Not funding the government has nothing to do with shutting down the president's health care plan. And in fact, papers on October 1, newspaper after newspaper all over America on the front page had the biggest headline was government shutdown. The other headline was Obamacare launches. So to try to convince people that we could achieve something we couldn't achieve, the president was never going to sign a bill that would abolish his health care plan. Just like Ronald Reagan, when there was a Democrat House, a Republican Senate, and a Republican president, would have never signed a bill if the Democrats in the House would have said, if you don't reverse your 1986 tax cuts, we're going to shut the government down. That would not have happened. President Reagan wouldn't have done that. If they would have said, if you don't start the process of repealing the Second Amendment, we're going to shut the government down. President Reagan wouldn't have done that, and President Obama won't do this. Convincing people that something can happen that can't happen is not, in my view, the right thing to do. But I don't question anybody's motive for trying to make it happen. I do question all these people that try to convince people to send money to help make something happen that can't possibly happen. So I'm going to continue to look for ways to oppose the president's health care plan. The biggest way to see the president's health care plan may very well be for people to figure out what's in it. Unfortunately, the headlines the last week that could have been Obamacare not working, nobody able to sign up, a plan that won't work, were all somewhere else in the paper besides the front page, because the front page was government shutdown. And I think that was a bad strategy for people who'd like to see the health care plan go away, and I'd like to see it go away, but I think you've got to have a reasonable plan to make that happen.
What is the plan?
Well, one plan is to let people see it's not going to work.
Well, don't you think people kind of have already?
Well, no, they really haven't already, because it's not had a chance. We know already that it has terrible economic consequences. I think we're about to find out it also has terrible health care consequences. We do know that people aren't hiring above 50. We do know that people are looking at part-time workers instead of full-time workers. We do know that people that have always provided health care coverage in the past because they thought it was the right thing to do, that many of those people are announcing they're not going to cover spouses. They're not going to do this. They're not going to do that. We know that. I think we don't know yet how bad this is going to be. I'm going to do everything I can to. The medical device tax is a terrible thing. Having businesses get the exemption the president just made up out of clean air, out of clear air, while individuals have to pay a penalty if they don't have insurance. I think that's totally indefensible. And frankly, I still think both of those are things we might have a chance to get as we go through this fight on the debt ceiling. But frankly, it looks like a lot of our outside friends are giving up on the debt ceiling fight. The most vigorous about the shutdown are now saying, well, let's go ahead and raise the debt ceiling for a month or 2 months. I think the debt ceiling is the better ground to fight on because it doesn't affect Americans' daily lives like not being able to get somebody buried at the National Cemetery does, or this terrible situation where the Defense Department has decided that they can't give the death benefit to families of people killed in battle. It's just craziness.
Well, Senator Blunt, I know we've kept you a little longer than we had. You appreciate you being with us, and anytime you're in the area, feel free to stop by.
Hey, Nick, I always like to come by, and I'm always glad to talk to you. So thanks for what you're doing, and I will be with you soon.